The female who was found deceased in a vehicle.
Police investigate after a murder last night on the campus of the University of Utah. Welcome to Newsline. It's Tuesday, October 23rd. I'm Adam Gibby.
And I'm Allison Caffrey. We start with a developing story in Salt Lake City. University of Utah students are dealing with the aftermath of campus violence.
A university student was murdered near her dormitory. It happened last night near 20th East and Sunnyside Avenue. Around 10:30 p.m., police issued a secure-in-place on the campus after police had received reports of a shooting. When they responded, they found the body of a woman inside of her car parked outside of her dormitory.
Police identified the victim as 21-year-old Lauren McCluskey, a student and a member of the U of U track team. Lauren was a senior at the U and was majoring in communications. She was planning on graduating in May of 2019. Her mom released a statement about her daughter just a few hours ago. In it, she says that Lauren was previously in a relationship with the man who killed her. Lauren had broken up with him on October 9th and had repeatedly complained to University of Utah police that he was harassing her. Lauren's mom was on the phone with her daughter last night when she heard Lauren say, "No, no, no." Her mother thought she had been in a car accident. After that, Lauren's dad called 911 and they both listened to Lauren's phone while the police responded. A few moments later, a young woman picked up the phone and said all of Lauren's things were on the ground.
Police identified the shooter as 37-year-old Melvin Rowland. Lauren's family say Melvin lied to her about his name, his age, and criminal history. As soon as Lauren found out about his past, she ended the relationship with him. According to court records, Rowland was a registered sex offender and was not a student at the University of Utah. Police say Rowland's last known address was at a halfway house. And classes at the University of Utah are canceled today. The campus will remain open with the counseling center and other support resources available to support students. A vigil for Lauren will be held tomorrow at 5 p.m. at the Park Building on campus.
The University of Utah shooting that happened last night follows the deadly shooting last October of Chen-Wei Guo, who was killed near the school's campus. The shooting happened at the gate of Red Butte Canyon, where Guo's car was parked. The motive for the shooting was a car hijacking, and the suspect was caught the next day. Guo was studying computer science and entrepreneurship. Austin Butane, who killed Guo, admitted his guilt last month. He's now serving a lifelong sentence behind bars at Utah State Prison.
A tracks train hit and killed a woman who was crossing the tracks in Murray. The Utah Transit Authority says the woman looked distracted when she was hit by the train yesterday afternoon. UTA says she was looking at her cell phone when she walked in front of the train at the 5900 South Station. The incident caused train delays last night, but they're back to the regular schedule.
Republican Congressman John Curtis is preparing to debate his two opponents in the 3rd District congressional race. Last night, he held a town hall meeting to talk with constituents one-on-one. Newsline reporter Eliza Fellows was at the meeting. Eliza, how was the turnout?
Not very big. Only around a dozen people showed up, but Representative Curtis has made it a priority to meet with those he represents. Representative John Curtis feels it is important to connect with his constituents.
Back about 100 town hall meetings in the last 11 months. That's been one of my hallmarks and a commitment.
Last night, the congressman held a town hall meeting at the Provo Library. The scheduled topic was the environment, but the meeting ended up touching on several other topics.
The question has to do with the Antiquities Act.
The director and chair of the Utah Valley Earth Forum asked Curtis about the Antiquity Act.
The best way to protect land is through congressional action. One of the problems with the Antiquities Act is that it's unilateral. It's going to make somebody mad. It's a winner-take-all type of an approach to preserving land.
Only 11 people showed up for the meeting. Despite the small turnout, Curtis says holding town hall meetings is important.
I find them very, very helpful. It's the best way, I think, to stay in tune with the district and hear what's on people's minds.
Constituents who attended the town hall meeting were grateful for Curtis's time. They emphasized the importance of not waiting for the government to take action and instead to take action as a community.
We do need to stand up for ourselves before we can expect, our big brother to stand in for us. If we can do more on a local level, bring our friends here, get more people coming, get more people caring, then I think it's going to make a bigger impact than 10 of us complaining.
I think if we think the federal government is going to solve our problem, there's a lot we don't have to wait for President Trump to do.
Tonight, Congressman John Curtis will face off against his opponent, Democrat James Singer, in a debate for the 3rd Congressional District race. It will be held at Utah Valley University tonight at 6 o'clock. Back to you.
Utah Senator Jim DeBacchus is no longer a self-proclaimed marijuana virgin. He traveled to Las Vegas last night to try a cannabis gummy bear for himself before he votes on Proposition 2.
We're looking at major changes in Utah laws. At least one legislator ought to see what this thing is all about.
When the senator tried the gummy bear, he admitted he wouldn't suggest it as candy since it's so bitter. He assured his viewers that he wouldn't bring the special candy home and that he had a designated driver. In a follow-up video, he suggested that everyone in the Utah legislature should be allowed to try cannabis gummy bears at least once.
Unified police officers are mourning the loss of one of their own. Their canine, Kuno, was killed after being hit by a car. Kuno, a police dog, was riding in the back of his handler's pickup truck yesterday when he jumped out and was hit by another car. His handler was off duty at the time of Kuno's death. Kuno died from his injuries. He was a 16-month-old German Shepherd who was in training. The driver who hit Kuno has not been identified.
After 3 years of construction, the new Olmsted hydroelectric power plant is now up and running. Newsline reporter Madeline Reber is here to tell us about the history and updates of the plant.
The Olmsted power plant was built more than 100 years ago, but the city determined it was cheaper to build a new plant rather than continue renovations on the original.
It was the very first hydroelectric plant to transmit power at 44,000 volts for 33 miles. First one in the world.
Lucy Nunn first built the hydroelectric plant in 1904 to power mines throughout Utah. Now the Olmsted supplies power for more than 3,000 homes along the Wasatch Front. The Olmsted plant is a run-of-the-river plant, which means that power is only generated when water is needed downstream. The water comes from the Jordanelle Reservoir, and by the time the water reaches the plant, it has traveled more than 83 miles.
We only generate on water that's available. We don't release water from the dams to generate power.
Because the original has pipelines and facilities on top of each other, Central Utah Water shut down the plant for 3 years so that the new one could be built.
None of the water was affected. The power was affected. There was a little bit less power was generated.
And though the first plant was built over 100 years ago, the new Olmsted has the same technology as the original.
Technology change on that is now it's much more refined. It's computer designed.
The original plant required 25 workers at all times to ensure all the phases of the plant ran efficiently.
We have somebody check it every day, but it doesn't have to have anybody 24 hours a day.
The Central Utah Water District plans to make the original into a museum by appointment. There will be a tour next Monday night at 5 p.m. at the Olmsted where you can tour the original and learn about the new plant. Back to you.
The results are in. Wallet Hub released the official rankings of colleges and universities for 2019. Several Utah colleges had good showings. Nationally, Brigham Young University ranked 57th, University of Utah ranked 147th, Utah State University ranked 492nd. Wallet Hub also provided regional rankings. For Western universities, BYU came in 12th, U of U was ranked 29th, USU is 93rd, and Southern Utah University is 116th. The top 5 universities in the country are MIT, Princeton, Yale, Harvard, and California Institute of Technology.
Right now, BYU's Museum of Art is hosting a Pulitzer Prize photo exhibit. Newsline reporter Hayden Wallace went to check it out. Hayden, how many photos are in the exhibit?
126 photos are on display. The exhibit features every Pulitzer Prize-winning photograph since its inauguration in 1942.
The exhibit was created and first shown in the museum in Washington, D.C. Brigham Young University's Museum of Art is the first museum to host it outside of the original location.
I didn't know what to expect going into it.
It's so powerful, it's so relevant.
Chosen for their portrayal of extreme emotion, distress, violence, and hope, the winning photos have caused viewers to feel all sorts of emotions.
Very surprised or startled. Pictures that have taken on a power.
The museum provides a way for people to share their reactions to the exhibit, what they think, and how it has changed them. People leave anonymous notes saying things like, "Be a voice for those whose voice is stifled," "Speak up to those being ignored," or even simply, "Thankful for what I have." One note from a child read, "Be kind," followed by a drawing of a stick person smiling.
To be totally honest, we were a little concerned, wondering how our audience would react to some of this material, because it is challenging, it is difficult.
Despite the very intense content, the exhibit has been met with a good reaction by those who come through here.
I just went in completely blind and it was awesome.
I think it was something that I would recommend for people around here to do.
Everything we've heard from people is that this exhibition has been very powerful, that it's inspired people to want to make a change.
The Pulitzer Prize winning exhibition began in June and will go through March of next year. For more information on stuff that's going on in the museum, visit moa.byu.edu.
Thanks, Hayden. That sounds really interesting. I'll have to go check it out myself. Thanks.
New details on the murder of Saudi Arabian journalist.
What is now being reported about the location of his body?
If I win the $1.6 million, my friends and family and my church, you'll all be sad.
Lottery fever is sweeping the nation. How the historic jackpot is, how big it is, and when the next drawing will be held.
Cars that drive themselves will tell you which U.S. city will be testing the vehicles next year.
Hurricane Willa is raining its wrath across the Pacific West Coast of Mexico. I'll tell you what it means for weather here in Utah.
Listen, you're my friend.
I noticed you haven't really been yourself recently.
Yeah, I feel like something's up.
How are you?
Are you okay?
Is there anything you want to talk about?
I just want to know how you're feeling.
And listen, even if you don't know what to say, I'm here to talk.
No matter what you're going through,
I just want you to know I'm here.
I've got your back.
when you want to talk, I'm here.
They call me Maxie, but I prefer tripod. I was your above-average four-legged homie, and then wham-bam minivan. Some people pity me. Now that's lame. I still run, fetch, and swim. And the ladies love me. I'm the ultimate wingman. Just don't ask me to high-five.
You think getting dumped by text is harsh? Try getting dumped by a tennis ball. My ex-owner drove me out to the woods, yelled fetch, and by the time I brought the ball back, he was gone. Yeah, I was pissed. But the folks at the shelter helped me let go of my anger. I learned coping skills, like taking it to the hole. Boom! Now I'm ready to fetch again. But how about I throw and you run and get it?
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Thousands of migrants from Central American countries are making their way for the U.S. border.
Currently, the migrant caravan is in Mexico despite attempts from the Mexican government to stop them from illegally entering. Patrick Opperman is reporting near Tapachula, Mexico.
It is a river of people that heads in only one direction, north. The lucky ride on top of cars or on the sides of them. But most of the people walk in grueling heat, many carrying children. Mexican police tried to stop the caravan of migrants at the border with Guatemala. After the caravan entered Mexico, federal police set up a roadblock with over 100 officers and told CNN they were going to force the migrants to get on buses that would take them to government shelters. The Trump administration is threatening to pull aid from countries that fail to prevent migrants from entering the U.S. illegally. But caravan organizers say they won't be bullied. We are going forward. There is no going back, he tells me. We are fighting. We will make the governments of Mexico and the United States understand why we are coming. It won't be easy. Single mother Blanca Lidia crossed the river into Mexico with her 3 children. The journey north was exhausting, but they would persevere, she said. I have faith, she says, that we will arrive. They will need all their faith and more for the hundreds of miles that still lay ahead of them. Patrick Ottman, CNN, traveling with the migrant caravan near Tapachula, Mexico.
Body parts of murdered journalist Jamal Khashoggi have been found. That's according to reports from Sky News. Turkish officials say they found some of the body parts in the garden of Consul General's home in Istanbul. Khashoggi's face was disfigured and his body had been cut up. These new findings contradict Saudi officials' past explanation was that the body was rolled up in a carpet and given to someone to dispose of the evidence. Although the body parts have been reportedly found, this case is still full of unanswered questions. Firefighters were able to contain a massive fire in a Mexico City alcohol factory yesterday. Pictures of the explosion went viral on social media, and you can see why. Authorities say 1 person was injured in the massive flames, and about 2,000 had to evacuate. The cause of the fire is still unknown.
Self-driving cars are headed to Washington, D.C. Ford announced yesterday that the plan to begin testing early next year in the nation's capital. D.C. will prove to be a challenge for the vehicles since driving in cities is much more difficult than in the suburbs. Ford also plans a self-driving ride service in 2021. And more than $2 billion are up for grabs. Today's Mega Millions and tomorrow's Powerball jackpot combined are roughly $2.2 billion. The Mega Millions alone is at $1.6 billion, the largest prize in U.S. lottery history. But your chances of winning are very slim, 1 in about 302 million, which means you're more likely to get bitten by a shark or struck by lightning at the same time. The Mega Millions hasn't been won since July 24th, and if no one wins today, the prize will only get bigger.
The first American Sign Language Starbucks is now open. All of the workers are fluent in ASL, but there are tablets at the register if people can't sign and want to write down their order. Unlike other locations, there's no ambient music playing in the store. It's right down the street from the world's only liberal arts university for the deaf and hard of hearing.
Hurricane Willa is expected to make landfall today across Mexico's Pacific West Coast. The storm has already made its way through a cluster of islands off the coast of the country. Although the hurricane has been downgraded to a Category 3, the National Hurricane Center warns that Willa is still likely to bring life-threatening storm surges. As the hurricane makes its way across Mexico and into the U.S., Texas can expect to see nearly 4 inches of rain on Wednesday, with the storm moving through the East Coast by the end of the week. And taking a look at our radar of Hurricane Willa, you can see here it will probably move to about a Category 2 as it moves through most of Mexico, and then it moves up through Texas, which is already experiencing major rain and major flooding, and then moving over across and down into Florida. You can see here that there is a few storms coming up through Utah, but don't worry, we won't be affected, but that doesn't mean we didn't see some rainfall today. Turning towards Utah highs, Logan saw some rainfall today, and then moving also down into Ogden, as you could see earlier this morning. Salt Lake's at 66, Provo is at 65, Moab and Blanding area also seeing those scattered showers, and St. George a nice 75 degrees. Looking at our Utah lows, everything looks about typical for our fall weather, so nothing too freezing. 36 is still cold for up in northern Utah, but Blanding, St. George looking at about 50 in the 40s. And then turning to our 5-day forecast for southern Utah, a little cloudy today, but it's sun across the board as we move into our weekend, so perfect time to head outside. And moving into our northern forecast, it's nice and cloudy for most of the week, but Saturday does clear up. Our temperatures are higher for this time of year, so it's a good time to maybe head outside. I don't know if you have yard work to do, or maybe you go on a hike. It's a good time to enjoy it before we get some colder weather heading our way.
I want one last like fall picnic.
Yes, it's perfect.
I just wish the weather stayed like this all year. High 60s, low 70s,
Right.
sunny. I mean, you can't beat that. It's perfect.
It
I'm
is.
still betting on snow before Halloween, but
Katie would know.
Today I steal the universe to talk sports. Stories about the football and tennis teams and how it's a family affair. Who is related to who?
See on page 4 that the projections need to be earthquake next Thursday.
Seriously? Thursday? Can't do that.
This is really inconvenient.
I have yoga that day. I have no time for this.
So I can't do Thursday, but I can do Friday.
Disasters don't plan ahead. You can. Talk to your loved ones about how you're going to be ready in an emergency. Don't wait. Communicate.
Planning the right amount of food is hard. The Guestimator makes it easy. Just tell it who's coming and what's for dinner. Then it tells you how much to make. And yes, it even plans for leftovers. Try it at savethefood.com.
When it comes to social media engagement, BYU sports social media accounts are through the roof. Natasha Ramirez found out what goes into making content that will impress and excite Cougar fans.
Cheerleaders and Cougar Tales are staples at almost every BYU sporting event. But one thing that's also there that most people aren't aware of are the social media teams documenting and creating amazing media. Every year, BYU puts out amazing content that brings new and old fans to the games in droves.
So the strategy behind BYU Athletics social media is a lot more based on engaging fans and kind of showing off the fun, athletic personality behind BYU athletes. So we make a lot of videos with fun music that kind of hypes up the crowd and gets people excited.
Hours and hours of work go on before, during, and well after every single game in order to make content for Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and our beloved Sports Nation show.
The BYU Athletic posts, we don't want them to feel like a calendar, like somebody's telling you, okay, the game is here, come this time, and we're doing this. We want to feel like a friend that's telling you when the game is and then showing you kind of like a fun reason to go.
Of course, social media gurus are only as good as their fans. Thankfully, BYU's fans are just as devoted online as they are in the stands. BYU has one of the most engaged fan bases on Twitter, with almost 40,000 mentions last season.
Just taking a look at the BYU fan base all over the country, all over the world, and seeing them on social media during games is pretty incredible. We're really up there, and a lot of that credit goes to our social and digital teams. Honestly, they put out some of the best content out there.
So the next time you're in the stands cheering on your favorite BYU team, keep in mind the amazing social and digital media teams who are creating amazing content just for you.
A new edition of BYU's local newspaper is on stands right now. Camille Baker, editor-in-chief of the Universe, joins us now. Camille, I hear there is a story about football and family. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so it turns out there are quite a few family members playing for the BYU football team.
So how many family members are we talking here?
Quite a few. Currently, more than 30 players on the roster have some sort of family connection to the program, including 8 sets of brothers, a number of cousins, and a few sons of former players. Some of these include Bracken El-Bakri on defense and his brother Braden on offense, Neil Pau, a wide receiver, and his brother Butch, a linebacker. Then there's Addison and Adam Pulsifer and Gunnar and Baylor Romney. And that's just the brothers, not including the cousins. When you do include them, you get Aleva Hifo and Sione Takitaki, Bo and Tristan Hodge, and Coy and Mitch Harris.
Now, tennis also has some brothers.
Yes, Jacob and Sam Tullis.
And what can you tell us about them?
So the two brothers grew up playing tennis together, and at ages 11 and 12, they faced off at a tournament for the championship. Now they are both on the BYU tennis team. Sam has said since his brother Jacob came to play for BYU, the enjoyment level went up, and he knows his brother will always have his back.
I'm sure a little sibling rivalry helps a bit. Thank you, Camille.
You're welcome.
Speaking of BYU football, they face off against Northern Illinois in what is expected to be a bit of a tough match and a good test for Zach Wilson. Northern Illinois has the same record as BYU with 4-3, and like BYU is coming off a bye week. On top of that, they have a solid defense with All-American defensive end Sutton Smith. Kickoff is at 1:30 p.m. this Saturday at Lavelle Edwards Stadium. Jazz came off cold last night in their game against the Memphis Grizzlies. Jazz moved a bit slow as they hit the court. It was a bit hard to imagine this was the same team that scored 80 points in the first half against the Golden State Warriors 3 days before. Jazz get the chance to redeem themselves against the Rockets tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Game 1 of the World Series is tonight. Dodgers and Red Sox face off for the World Series for the first time in 60 seasons. Adding to the excitement, the Dodgers haven't even been to the World Series in 30 years. Looks to be a good game. They will play at Fenway Park for the first 2 games. Tune in tonight at 6 p.m.
Well, I'm excited for the World Series to start. It's going to be awesome. I can't believe it's already started, actually.
Yeah, it kind of snuck up on a few people.
Yeah.
But I'm a Dodgers fan, so I am
too. Go Dodgers.
Go Dodgers.
We can have some parties together. Dodgers parties.
Sounds good.
Yes.
If there's something strange in the neighborhood, one boy in Sacramento knows who he's going to call.
Now aim it at the ghost.
5-year-old London Green, who suffers from a heart defect, always wanted to be a Ghostbuster. Green says he saw the classic film when he was only 3 years old, and he's been obsessed with it ever since. London has undergone 4 heart surgeries and weeks in the hospital for a congenital heart defect. So when the Make-A-Wish Foundation found out his dream to be a Ghostbuster, they recruited some of the experts right in Sacramento to make it happen. With his proton pack strapped on and his ghost meter in hand, London joined the Ghostbusters to hunt down some haunted spirits in Sacramento. That is so cool.
That's adorable. I love that. It's so cute that he gets to experience that, and he looks so happy.
It's pretty brave for Ghostbusters, too. That scared me as a kid.
I'm still scared a little bit of that. So.
I'm sure he is very brave. Yes. And that's your Newsline for October. Oh, what is the date today? For October 23rd, 2018 already.
Thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful day.